Hey guys, Dan here,
Frank Godzilla Island.
and we are here with Mazer Squad, episode 25. It's the Notzilla special. We're going to be covering
Yeah.
the comic book and the movie, along with our Ultraman Blazar episodes 16 and 17 coverage as usual. Obviously, because we're doing Notzilla, we got some cold ones on deck. We're ready to go. It's going to be a great episode, a lot of fun. This is just a really, really fun movie. But before we get into the review, let's talk about some news. And we have some tokusatsu / anime news going on. I know some people don't like it when they use the tokusatsu genre and then we talk about anime, but like it's references to Toku, so we're doing that. And we're going to start with Go-Go Loser Ranger, which was a project that we heard about last year starting. And I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'm sure it's going to end up on like some anime streaming service over here.
Yeah.
It's not. It's going to be on Hulu, Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's. I'm like really like surprised by it because it's a pretty dark manga from what I've heard. I've only read and covered the first volume first manga here on the channel. You can check that out. It's about a henchman who decides to infiltrate the Dragon Keepers, which are the Rangers. In Japan, the series is called the Reject Ranger, not Go-Go Loser Ranger. I honestly think the Reject Ranger title is better, and I even have some coworkers that are big into manga. They're like, they should call it Reject Ranger, like it's supposed to be. But so what happens is it's almost like your classic Sentai thing. The Earth gets invaded by aliens, but this time the Dragon Keepers, they defeat the aliens in a matter of like 2 weeks, and they come to these terms where now the henchmen, you need to provide a monster every week for the Keepers, and they pretty much put on like an arena battle every week, and they need to save the world every week and defeat a new villain. So one of the henchmen has enough of losing, and he's like, it's my turn to win. And his ability, each henchman has a little different ability. His ability, he has perfected turning into humans. Most of the time they turn into monsters, but he could turn into humans, and he disguises himself as a human, tries to apply to be a keeper, and he does get in. And we learn that these Dragon Keepers all have these special artifacts that give them their powers, and there's people that within the Keepers that don't want the Keepers to be what they are. You have one female character, she wants to take over and just take the power for herself. And there's another guy who also wants to take them down. He just wants to change the way they do things. So it's a really interesting series. It's gonna be. It looks like it could be pretty funny, but I'm really looking forward to see where it goes. Like I said, I've only had the introduction of the first volume. Definitely gonna be something interesting to see. And I'm going to keep an eye out for that for sure, especially with it hitting Hulu and Disney Plus. It's only going to be on Disney Plus if you have Hulu, because they're doing that whole integration thing where your Hulu stuff appears on Disney Plus now. So like we covered earlier in the year, we were saying Godzilla is on Disney Plus. It was on Disney Plus because it was on Hulu.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see this series. It kind of reminds me of a bit of like One Punch Man meets kind of like The Boys, where it's like,
yes,
maybe the good guys aren't really as great as they seem type of thing. Yeah. But also with like the One Punch Man with like the outsider applying to be a hero type of situation. You know, it's an interesting concept. I'm looking forward to it. And we'll see what happens with this Hulu Disney Plus things. They've been talking for like almost 2 years now that they're just gonna get rid of Hulu and just integrate it into Disney Plus, like just one giant streaming service, which they keep saying with Paramount and Warner Brothers and like all these other streaming services, they're all looking to merge. So it's always changing.
Jack up prices.
and jacking up prices is always changing. So that's just all part of it. Talking about streaming services. Crunchyroll, which recently just murdered Funimation streaming service, is going to be broadcasting their Kaiju #8 anime on Crunchyroll and X, formerly known as Twitter, as its streaming home. I wonder how much they got paid for that.
I don't know, but I think, I don't know how the Twitter thing works. I was talking to somebody at work also about this, and he was saying that he thinks you could really only stream it on Twitter if you pay for Twitter.
But like, this is like a big company. Like, do you think that maybe they were paid like, hey, we'll give you X amount of money if you put your show on our social media platform so people use it?
Yeah, and you know, it's crazy. They have like American bands doing the songs for it. Like they have, I think One Republic does the opening music, and I can't think of the other guy's name.
That's like a big...
Young Blood is doing the outro. There's two like American bands and doing the theme song. I thought the animation looked pretty good. I heard people would mix things. I think
it's subjective. Animation.
People just need to. Yeah, it is. Like some people, they weren't fans of the Ultraman animation. I thought it was fine. I thought it looked cool, but other people they hated that Ultraman animation. But I thought it looked great. I mean,
no, I liked it, and you know, I feel like, you know, people complained about Spider-Verse animation on the first movie, and now there's movies trying to copy that, and it's like the new it thing in animation. Yeah, so like you know, stylized, it takes whatever. Sometimes it takes time getting used to a new animation style or different than what you were expecting animation
it's just
style.
Like a different, it's a different like form of art. I mean, in the way, you know, there's guys like Picasso and all that. They all had different looks. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, you know, unless it's just absolute garbage, you know, I really can't, you know, complain about an animation style.
Yeah, but Kaiju #8, that one I have read more of. I think I'm on the channel. I've covered 4 volumes myself. I've read 5, and it's a really good series. And the first book moves, I'm gonna say a little slow, but after that second one, the third one, and fourth one, they get moving. I mean, it's just like everything just hits the fan in that series. And I think this is going to be a fun one. The character, Kafka Habino, is a funny one. He's just sort of like that. He's like the old man of the crew, but he's got a lot of experience, and he's got like this grumpy old man personality, you could say, but he's kind of a goof and a slacker too. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to Kaiju #8.
Yeah, I read the first volume, and...
Yeah, I will lend you the rest.
I felt like it was like the first episode or 2 is what you got out of the first volume. Like, I don't know how quickly they're gonna have to like how many volumes is this first season gonna be? Yeah, like, is it gonna bring us to current? Like, it might be like again, I hate to quote like One Punch Man again on a second anime thing in a row, but like that was a show that was made and basically it covered the entire manga in the first season, and then they had to like wait 2 years to put out a second season. Yeah, and I think it's been like a 3 or 4 year wait for the third season, which I think they just announced. I think that was a big wait. Somebody at work, another guy at work, was just talking about that gap as well. It's a big one. Yeah, it is. And I remember like it was big when, I think it was like one of the last times we went to New York Comic Con, which was a very long time ago, is like when it first came out and it was like really big, and that was like so long ago, and they're only on the 3rd season now. I mean, it's got to be like 2018, 2017, because
it's even longer than that.
I was not in this house when I watched that anime.
I'd say it was been almost like, I want to say it's been almost 8 to 10 years. I don't know.
Maybe been a while.
It's been a while. I was still watching Walking Dead at the time, which I cut that off a long time ago. So that maybe 8 or 9 years. I'll give it 9 years. I'm gonna say 9 years.
Yeah, and to kind of touch on something Crunchyroll related. Last week we had like a bit of a segment about like Godzilla needs to be more accessible. Like, there's almost no physical releases available. It's not readily available on digital. I mean, the newer stuff was, but not the Showa era. So
Even Shin Godzilla was getting difficult to find.
Yeah, literally days after recording, before we even edited and uploaded it, the Criterion Collection has been uploaded to Voodoo, which is what I was calling for. And it's like one of the top seller sets, and it's retailing for like $100 on digital for the entire Criterion Collection. Criterion has reprinted the physical edition of the Showa Collection, the giant book. I'm surprised they still haven't done just the disc release for that. But they've reprinted this, so it's more available now. And on top of that, Groove, for a short period of time, had $10 copies of Shin Godzilla. It looks like they're going to be getting a restock because it's got Crunchyroll packaging on it. But also the Godzilla website has copies available. A little bit more expensive, like $5 more, but still $15 for a movie that was recently reselling for $100, which you should never pay that amount of money for Shin Godzilla.
That was just mind-numbing. You shouldn't have to pay that amount of money for any Godzilla movie or any movie at all. I mean,
absolutely ridiculous.
The scalper prices were insane.
I can't believe people were paying that. That's insane.
It was at one point like a movie you could get for like $5 on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
It got like dirt cheap, Shin Godzilla.
Because it was a little overly printed, I think.
Yeah.
They were just sitting around.
Yeah, and then they weren't all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think people realized that they were out of print.
Yeah.
And that's when they started like price gouging.
Yeah. And then we have a lot of new fans coming from -1. You have Godzilla Kong New Empire dropping next month, which I'm sure, not even next month, in a couple weeks. It's crazy how fast it's going. But I'm sure that's going to bring in more new fans, especially young fans with this one. It's going to be, we got quite a year for Godzilla this year.
We really do. I guess, is that the transition over to more Godzilla for this year? And that is going to be, Japan is getting its 4K physical release of Godzilla -1. And it's a surprisingly thorough release for Japan. I feel like usually they kind of just get like, this is the set, or we're getting you this like collector's edition. They're getting a 4-disc 4K UHD set that comes with both the monochrome and the color version of the film. It's a really nice looking set. And I kind of wish we would get one here in the States.
Yeah, there's also a 3-disc set that does not include the 4K. That's just regular Blu-ray, monochrome, and the DVD. So pretty cool. They're getting 2 nice looking sets in Japan. I'm hoping we get it here soon. I've heard rumblings that we haven't got our announcement here in the States yet because of the Godzilla Kong New Empire. They don't want to pull the attention away from that release. We got the Oscars coming up this Sunday here. We're recording on Friday right now, the 8th. And that's going to be pulling a lot of attention. There were even some rumblings earlier in the week saying that Legendary was the one behind the -1 ending. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if it's just more Legendary haters out there just want to throw dirt, get people pissed off at it. But it could be because part of the agreement was that Toho couldn't release a Godzilla movie the same year as Legendary. So the theater run did come over into the new year, which was not expected. It was originally only going to be in theaters a week, but we got it for 2 months, 3 months almost.
Yeah, 2-3 months.
Yeah, which is awesome. I still miss it being in theaters, honestly.
Yeah.
But I really want to see that movie again, and now it's like, oh, now we gotta wait. But I'm thinking it's gonna be, I want to say 3 to 4 months after May. I don't think we're gonna be getting it that soon, unless they're gonna announce like a really nice looking set after the Oscars, and I feel like it's gonna take it home because it just won a bunch of awards. I believe it won 8 awards at the Japan Academy Awards, and it took home Best Film of the Year there. So I'm looking forward to that. I guess I'm going to be watching the Oscars on Sunday to see what happens.
Yeah, right?
I'm usually not into doing that, but this is like pretty historic here if Godzilla takes home an Oscar.
Yeah, it'd be really cool if they won. I mean, that would be like kind of like the height of like the fandom right now. They'd be like so so hyped on it because it's just like we never get anything.
Yeah. This is big. I absolutely think it deserves it. It should have been nominated for International Film and Best Film of the Year, honestly. But
yeah, I was a little surprised it didn't grab more nominations, but
yeah, it should have. It absolutely should have. But continuing on with -1, we have the director Takashi Yamazaki does have a little short coming out on the 14th, which is not too far off. I mean, it might be this show will probably be out right before it.
Yeah.
But the 14th, it looks like another kaiju short. It looks like, I don't know, is it like a food kaiju, a plant kaiju? It's just glimpses of it. Yeah, it looks pretty cool, interesting. I'm sure it'll be a fun little short. Definitely want to check that out. I mean, he's done incredible work. I mean, we can't ask for much more from this guy. I mean,
I know. It's been a good run for him, and yeah, I'm excited for the short. Definitely gonna go check it out. Hopefully it's readily available. Like I hope it's just like YouTube or something.
No, absolutely. But yeah, I think that about covers all our Godzilla news. And I think right now we'll move on to some Titanic Creations news. They are like doing it real big with the Korean kaiju this year. They have announced that they're going to be doing a Yanggary figure, as well as a Pulgasari figure. We'll get to this one in a little, but Yanggary is coming April 23rd. They need 400 pre-orders for it to go into production. I think they're going to do it. Matt Frank is doing the box art for this one. Once again, he did the box art for Gorgo, so looking forward to that. There will be unlockable milestones up to the 1,000 pre-order count. So if they hit 1,000 pre-orders, that will unlock every milestone, kind of like Gorgo did. Gorgo had a bunch of little add-ons that you could do. And then after that, it's Pulgasari, Pulgazary. But I've even seen them pronounce it just Pulgasar now. I don't know what the thing is with this. I don't know if it's a licensing thing. I know Mondo released a Pulgasari figure, but they called it Pulgasari. I don't know if it's a licensing thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little...
It's a very controversial movie as it is. It's a whole North Korean thing. The director was kidnapped and forced to make it. But it's like a cult favorite of a lot of kaiju fans. A lot of people just want to see this movie. I honestly have not seen it. I have a bootleg DVD of it that I haven't got to watch, and right now that's all you get here of that movie.
It's never going to get an official release, ever.
It's just like a bootleg, yeah.
Everything that you see on Amazon is all going to be bootleg. VHS transfers, like... It's just never going to get the treatment because, it's... Who owns that film? Like, it's...
Yeah. That's kind of like... I'm assuming part of why it's just not Pulgasari.
But, like, I have their Pulgasari shirt.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I just should have worn it for the podcast. Yeah, I wore it yesterday.
You wore it last episode, too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that awesome... Was it Cavity Colors did that? Incredible. It was like... No, it was
Ghost X Ghost.
Yeah, Ghost X Ghost. They did the Ghost drop. Yeah. Really sweet shirt. That's one of the coolest shirts. But this one, the Pulgasari, will also have the milestones. They didn't specify the pre-order minimums. I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing. 400 needed for it to go into production. 1,000 is the max for the add-ons. And then Gorgo is returning to Titanic Creations with a Ditko variant. If you've seen before, you can't. It's covered up in the back there.
I got
But
it.
I've done the PS art books.
Well, I don't have a PS art book. But at least I have
Covers. Yeah, you have the Ditko collection.
Ditko collection right here.
Yeah, there was a Gorgo comic series way back in the 60s. So they're doing the green variant of Gorgo from the comics. That launches March 19th. That's limited to 500. And I believe it's going for $59.99. Pretty cheap price. Nice paint job. I don't know if it comes with the accessories. I think I might pick that one up. I missed out on the regular Gorgo figure. It was like at a time where I was just like kind of like I need to buckle down. I can't really buy anything. I might pick up this one. I know you got the Gorgo figure.
I do. It's still. I haven't unboxed it yet.
Oh yeah, you gotta film that, man.
I have a pile, and I'm just like I'm gonna have an unboxing day one day.
Yeah, you just gotta go wild on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a lot of cool figures coming from Titanic Creations, and they also do have a new articulated Titanicus figure that launches in the summer. That's limited to 500. There's no pre-order limit that needs to be hit for that as well. So that and the Gorgo are both limited to 500. No pricing on that yet. I don't know. I know back in I believe it was 2022 they retired their original Titanicus figure. This one looks pretty cool. We covered Soul Wars before on the channel, which is a graphic novel that has all the original Titanic creation kaiju in it. Really awesome story. Loved it. It takes place in World War II. And they did a great job with these kaiju designs. I believe Dope Pope was partially behind a lot of the original monster designs. Like he's done the models and sculpts for the figures that are coming out now. He did the Gorgo sculpt. He did the Yanggary, I believe, and I don't know if he's doing the Pulgasari, but really looking forward to seeing how that Titanicus figure looks in full. Yeah, if you haven't, just check out their website, TitanicCreations.com. They have a lot of original kaiju figures, and they run sales every now and then, so we'll tweet those out when that happens, and definitely pick up Soul War. But moving on now, speaking of graphic novels and comic books from Titanic Creations, as many of you may know, they have been working with Gorgo, and the comic has officially been announced. It's going to be coming out sometime in the summer. It's going to be called Gorgo Legacy. And now, I actually thought when they announced this that it was going to be a sequel series, but it turns out it's going to be a prequel series. So I don't know if this is going to, if because of the Ditko comic series, maybe they didn't want to kind of retcon those, because the Ditko comics were supposed to be a sequel to the original, and now this will be serving as a prequel. It's going to be a 60-page book. It's going to be running for $12.99, and we are hoping to have the artist Patrick McAvoy and the creator Mac McClintock. He also worked on Soul Wars, and he's just one of the lead creators at Titanic Creations. He's behind the story for this. We're hoping to have them on the show sometime soon to discuss this comic book, but in our discussions it sounded like they might be going a crowdfunding route of some sort for this. I'm not 100% sure yet. Pat said they were working out the details, and once he figured out the exact dates and time frame and what was going on, he would be glad to come on here to talk with us. So we're really looking forward to talking to those guys about some Gorgo. Pat told me he's watched the movie just 12 times this year already, just working on the comic. He's like, I've just been watching it like constantly to work on this comic. So 60 pages, it's like a graphic novel. So looking forward to that. Like I said, they did a fantastic job with Soul War. If you have not read that or picked it up yet, I highly, highly recommend it. That you could pick up, I believe, sometimes when they do have sales. I believe it goes for like $9.99 on their site. I think it does run about $15.99. I'm not 100% sure on the price right now, but it's a nice sized book.
Yeah, it's
great
a
art,
decent sized
and
book for a price that low.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's definitely more than 60 pages. It was a pretty lengthy graphic novel.
And that you know, just reading that book, it's just like the amount of work that went into building the lore for all of these kaijus and everything. It's just like,
and it wasn't just like one story too. There's a lot of characters with intertwined stories in this book. There's kind of like 3 different storylines going on in this book.
yeah, I'm kind of interested to see what they do with Gorgo, just because I felt that the movie had such uninteresting human characters.
Yes.
That are they going to try to keep that as a theme to Gorgo, or are they going to actually they give us some human stories in this?
They did mention that some of the Soul Wars characters were going to carry over into here. So I don't know if it's human characters. In Soul Wars, there is like a special secret kaiju agency. So I don't know if they're going to be working in the shadows here in Gorgo. And I'm kind of curious now if we're going to see an adaptation of Yanggary and Pulgasari. I wonder if, because there's 2 Korean monsters and they're kind of coming out the same year. Like Gorgo had its own year to itself. These 2 are sharing a release year. I don't know if we're going to do like a Yanggary versus Pulgasari comic. They haven't said anything about comics
said anything
yet, but I'm just speculating here. And they have said that they would be able to do a whole little Soul Wars universe thing here. So that would be pretty interesting to see if all these kaiju cross over in this Titanic Creations universe. And I know they're still hunting down other kaiju and monsters to do figures of. They're really stepping it up.
Do Reptilicus. It's actually a pretty interesting design. Like,
yes. Reptilicus, Rhedosaurus, all those 50s kaiju. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a time of retro. I mean, we talked about it last episode with the Blob, them, and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. We are in a time, man. I'm excited about this.
Oh, could you imagine a Beast in 20,000 Fathoms figure?
Yes.
That would be...
Yeah.
That would be really good.
Exactly. I mean...
Because there's no other kaiju like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the generic lizard humanoid thing. It's like it's a it's a dinosaur, it's a sea monster, it's a sea serpent, type of thing.
No, yeah.
Include the lighthouse. Like, it would be really cool.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think they're hunting. Yeah, that's the Rhedosaurus. I think they're hunting it. They're trying to get it. That I believe. I remember seeing. I feel like I remember them asking a few months back. They're like, "Who owns the? Does anyone know who owns the rights to the Rhedosaurus?"
Oh,
I could have sworn I seen a tweet or something like that.
That might be Warner Brothers. Because they bought the movie, but who knows if they bought the right to the characters? Yeah. I have no idea. Because they bought that movie. It was an indie movie.
Yeah. Good old WB, man. Hopefully they don't write it off.
Yeah. Yeah, just like they did Rooster Teeth. God, awful.
Yeah.
Awful news.
Yeah, but on to some good news. We got some more comic news. Kyle Higgins, you may know him, the creator of the Massiverse, Radiant Black. He also did do the Ultraman comics for Marvel, and we've talked about it several times. Where is this Marvel crossover? They announced it last July. It's going to be almost 2 years now in a couple of months since this series was announced. We're going to have Ultraman crossing over with Marvel superheroes. They had Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Iron Man on the cover. So, when is this happening? Well, he recently responded to a tweet on Twitter saying that it is coming sometime this year, finally. The Massiverse is going on a little break, so I'm thinking that's when we might see it. Currently, Radiant Black is doing this whole Catalyst Wars story arc. I've covered volumes 1 and 2, so I'm a little behind. Plan on catching up. Radiant Red is the next Massiverse review we have coming to the channel for one of our Comic Book Wednesdays. So keep an eye out for that. That's recorded and done. And then Inferno Girl Red will be the next. And then we'll be on to Phase 2. And then I'll slowly be catching up. but hopefully that break will give you some time to. But yeah, so the Ultraman Marvel crossover series is finally going to be happening this year. I'm really excited about that and kind of curious to see how it went. I mean, Godzilla just had his crossover with DC. It actually sounded like a great series. It was, when it was first announced and people were seeing some of the art and covers, like, oh, they're reusing some of the art. Legendary is not too great. But from what I've heard, it's been pretty well received, and I'm looking forward to reading that too. I've been getting those comics, but I have not had the chance to read them yet. Just always have a backlog, you know?
I guess my main issue with the Legendary thing is, I back the project. It's been...
Oh, the Legendary Omnibus, yeah.
It's just too late.
Yeah.
They should have just said, hey, we want this to sync up with the movie.
Yeah.
They made it sound like we were like, oh, we're ready to print. That's the way they made it sound like when you were backing this project.
We were supposed to have this thing like way back, like in October or November, and the regular retail version is out. It's out now. People have it, and it's kind of like a slap in the face.
It's like one of those things. It's like you can't cancel a Kickstarter.
We're getting a nicer version. Sure, it's the nicer collection with the slipcase and the little cloth bookmark, and I'm looking forward to having it in my hands. And there's all little extra add-ons.
Yeah, I'm sure once I have it, I'll be happy. But
it is a bit of a slap in the face for the people that funded it and backed it. And you're Legendary. I don't know how the comic company works, but you have a massive film company behind you. You got to deliver to your backers and your fans. You can't. It is a bit of a slap in the face for the backers to just be sitting here like, where's our copy? Yeah, we got our digital version, but we would really like our physical versions.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, no, that's the way I feel about it. It's just like, I'm excited for it, but I'm also kind of just like, I've been waiting, man, like way too long.
Like,
it's been over a year since it ended.
Why do they have their physical version and I can't have mine? Yeah, mine looks a little nicer, but at the end of the day, it's the same book with a different cover.
Yeah, and I also felt like they kept saying like, "Oh, it's shipping soon. It's shipping soon.
Yes,
it's shipping soon."
Back in November, they're like, "We're almost there." I'm like, "All right, cool."
Yeah.
So maybe I'll have it for Christmas. Well,
yeah,
it's almost Easter.
Yeah, I hate getting down about stuff like that, but I'm just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
But talk about Kickstarters that do deliver, and boy, do they deliver. I mean, it was almost like an instant read for me. Like I got the message with the digital version, and Territory issue 4. Check your inboxes. Digital copies have been sent out. Physical copies have been sent to the printer, or going to be sent to the printer within the next day or two, I guess.
So we could expect those, I would say, in a month or two. It all depends on the printer usually, and how long it takes to get back to Blake, and then he's got to ship it out.
Yeah, and then they have to make sure they get proofs to make sure it's all good and approve everything. There's a process there.
Yeah.
But man, that issue's. I mean, we're not doing the review yet, but that issue's good.
Yeah. I haven't got to read it yet. I didn't get my break today, so I might read it soon. And I think we are going to be having Blake on the show soon, and we might have a little help on that interview with us as well. He's got some news for us, and but I know Blake's a really busy guy right now, so we won't rush him. But that interview might be our next show even, but we'll see.
Yeah, it depends
how
on
the schedules line up with everybody.
Yeah, trying to get everybody's schedule on the same page is just
Yeah. But also in indie comic news, you might have seen me tweet about it earlier in the week. Monster Matador's Once Upon Some Monsters in Mexico, issue 2 has been delivered. I didn't get a chance to shoot the unboxing yet. I might actually shoot that after we finish filming the show. The turnaround time for that was just mind-blowing. I think that's the fastest turnaround time I've seen for a Kickstarter ever. I feel like
it must have just been done.
I felt like it was like weeks.
Yeah,
he was like, I got the money, send it into the printer, proof is here, all right, I'm sending it out, you guys are good. Like,
yeah,
it was, I felt like it wasn't even a month, man. Like, I felt like the campaign ended and it was here, and I'm like, how do I have this right now? Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it because I got one of the holographic prints, so I really want to see how that looks in person. Really awesome series as well. You should definitely pick that up. You can pick it up from monstermatador.com. We'll share out their links and Blake's links down below as well. Lots of cool stuff on the horizon here in the indie comic world. And we'll always keep you guys updated on that. You know us. We love our indie comics, and we love to keep the community growing and get some more fans into it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that's it for news.
Yeah, I think that about covers our indie news, comic news.
Yeah, and I guess we're going to be transitioning over to our Ultraman Blazar episode 16 and 17 reviews.
I really like these.
Yeah, these are probably two of like my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Both of them really good. I think I liked 17 a little bit more, but
I liked 17. I really like 17 a lot. 16, I liked the whole nostalgia thing. They brought in a ton of kaiju. There were glimpses, but it's like a ton of older kaiju. We got to see M1, Takang, Barab, Tagannular, which we've seen earlier in the season, Alien Kanan, and Rabicer throughout the episode through like some illusions. But let's get into that. This episode starts off with just a giant hole in the ground, and these construction workers lean over to look into this hole. There's a flash of light, and all of them just go nuts and flip out. Title screen rolls, and episode comes back after the commercials. All these guys are in the hospital. They're like losing their minds, and all of them recount seeing a monster, but all of them saw different monsters, and they go through the whole story of each one. And like I said, we saw M1, we saw Takang, Barab, Tagannula, and they're like, oh, how come all these guys saw different monsters? It makes no sense.
Yeah. So Scarred goes over to the hole in the ground, and they start doing surveillance on it. And we have them, they're just kind of just chit-chatting in the car. And it's, they're talking about Earth Garon, and they're like, oh, like, Earth Garon's going to have this AI. It's going to be able to talk soon. It's going to be kind of, I'm really looking forward to it because, the way he likes to talk with computers.
Yeah.
Or just any inanimate object, for that matter.
Yeah, NASA knew. No,
yeah.
He was actually the one that sees Alien Canon, too.
Yes. Yeah, because that was the one who took his washing machine away.
Yeah.
So
is he the first victim? Yeah.
No, he's not the first victim. The first victim is the I'm forgetting the character's name, the co-captain, like the one just under Gento. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name right now. So he goes anyway. He goes over to check out the hole because he's like, his thing is like, I think there was a gas leak. Yes. And that's why everybody's seeing different things, because they're hallucinating, and then the light was the gas combusting.
Yes.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, it was teriyaki.
Yes. So he goes over, he checks the hole. No readings on his gas tester, which looked like it was a wireless voltage detector that he'd use for like swapping out an outlet or something. But he's got the gas mask on, reads nothing, takes off the mask, and he's looking in the hole, and then you see the flashing again, and he starts freaking out, and he's like, oh my god. And then, Yasunubo comes out, and he's like, what happened? And he's like, in there's bean cakes.
Yes.
He's like, it's filled with bean cakes. So it shows like the camera shot, and there's like these like almost looks like brains, but it's like, yeah, like it's bean cakes down there. and he's going crazy. He passes out. Yasunobu's like, no. Like, it was so over the top.
Yes.
So overacted.
They had fun with it, though.
No.
That's
like
the
that.
one thing about Ultraman. There's always, like, some goofiness to the team. Like, they're never, like, stone-faced serious.
Yeah, even, like, this, I feel like this series is a bit serious.
Yes.
Like, they still work the fun in there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they send him to the hospital, and they're kind of like, what's going on? They're all sitting in the van now. Funnily enough, now they all have their helmets on.
Yeah.
Which I think is because they're like, okay, if any of us pass out and hit our head, at least we'll have our helmets on.
Oh, God.
That's at least what I took away from it.
Yeah.
Because they're all sitting in a van with their helmets on.
Yeah. So now he's in the hospital. Yeah, Teriyaki's in the hospital. And it turns out he steals his medical records. He steals a tablet in the hospital. He's in the hallway on a cot. And he's like, so it turns out the kaiju emits the light and it affects the amygdala part of the brain, and it makes your fears. It triggers your fears. So that's why everybody sees something different. So when they get flashed with the light, whatever they're scared of, they see. So during this whole little segment, it's the running gag for the episode. There's the nurse like, you're not supposed to be out here. You're supposed to be getting rest. And she chases him away, and he has to hang up the phone. And she's like, I'm going to call your captain and tell him that you're on the phone and doing this. And so they get off the phone, and then next is Yasunobu and Henri. They go back to the crater to see what happens next. They get flashed. She sees Tiganular. He sees Alien Cannon, like we said earlier. Now the two of them are going nuts, and they end up in the hospital. Gento also gets flashed, but he keeps it under the control, probably with the help of Blazar. He gets asked by Emmy later on in the episode how come he never freaked out, and he says it's because of his special ops training. They were told to control their fears, and he says he's sure that she's got the same training too, and would be able to do the same. So anyway, Emmy reports that the Kaiju's being classified as Mogyujin is his name, the Kaiju's official name from Scarred.
Super cool name, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I spelt it too perfectly fine. Just hearing it, I was like, Mogyujin. And I'm like, let me look it up, make sure I spelled it right. I'm like, yup. It's Mogusion.
Yeah, and basically it looks like, I don't know, it's like like a bird with like a headpiece.
Yeah, it's got like this buzzsaw.
Yeah, but it's like almost
like a
feathery
spine.
though.
It's like a feathery like buzzsaw like blade down its head. It's like a mohawk.
Yeah, and then it's got these weird tentacles on its hand. Like it has a hand, but then inside the hand there's
like
tentacles.
The beams, and then
that's what puts out the beams.
Yeah. So Gento's like, enough of this. Deploy your Earth Garon. We're going down there. We're gonna pull this thing out. But it comes up on its own, and it begins terrorizing the city. And Emmy's like, I can't pilot Earth Garon by myself. He's like, I'm sure you can. And now the new AI system is in there. So Emmy gets the Earth Garon. She does the whole introduction to the AI. Earth Garon tells her that she could call him Earthy because that's what Yasunobu calls him. And she's like, really? And he's like, yeah. So
it's like, is that weird?
Yeah. So she takes off and confronts Mogyujin on her own. Right now, was Blazar fighting it? No,
not yet. Blazar comes in later.
Yeah, so she's fighting him, and she's put up a pretty good fight because Mogyujin, it turns out, was also trying to feed on the humans too. It's got this super long tongue.
Yeah,
and it's about to attack like an office building, and
we get a really cool shot here of like in the like through the building, the Earth Garon and Mogyujin fighting.
That's the thing about Ultraman. They've always been really good at getting some really cool angle shots. And I think one of the the first series to really nail some gorgeous shots is Return of Ultraman. Just in the super early episodes, right off the bat, it's just some of like the nicest looking kaiju cinematography I think I've seen, and it's probably why Return of Ultraman is one of my favorite Ultra series. I would say Ultra Q is still my favorite Ultra series, but as an Ultraman series, that's probably my favorite one that I've watched so far. But yeah, really awesome shot. You see all these office workers looking out their window at Mokyujin, and they're about to get eaten, and Emmy's like, we got to take this thing out, and Earth Garon's like, we can't fire, it's gonna hit the humans, and she's like, well, just charge at it and tackle it, and it's like, I advise against that. She's like, well, do what I say, and she just tackles Mokyujin out of the way and just goes toe to toe with it, fights it, and then eventually Mokyujin shoots the beams, and Emmy sees herself. She's scared of herself.
Yeah, I wonder what that's going to be, because she's got that mysterious backstory.
Yeah,
that's going to come up something.
She's a very mysterious character. So she's kind of going nuts. The whole team's on the screen kind of trying to talk her out of it. That's when Gento intervenes. He turns into Blazar and starts fighting Mokyujin. And I just find it really... The one gripe that I had with this is Emmy was actually putting up a pretty good fight. I mean, we've talked about this before. We kind of want Earth Garon just to get a win on its own for once. So
yeah, it would have been cool for her to come over her fears and just take him down.
So she's kind of there on the sidelines watching him fight. Blazar is not doing great. He's struggling with Mokyujin. And so Emmy finally snaps out of her daze. And at this point, Ultraman turns off his eyes. Like, he covers his eyes, and we see the light go out. So he's kind of covered his eyes so he can't get flashed and see his fears. And Mokyujin starts to, like, tiptoe around, and Emmy's just standing there watching this at this point.
Yeah.
And, like, this whole time she's just watching Mokyujin sneak up, and Ultraman's just there ready to take him down.
And she's like, he's got the left.
Yeah, so pretty much, yeah, right as he's about to strike, she goes, to your left. And that's all she contributes to the rest of the fight after snapping out of her daze. Like, she doesn't, like, join in on the fight. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't know.
So there, I guess I get, like, she can't fire any weapons and might hit Ultraman, but like she can at least try to, like, hold his arms or something, throw in some punches, a tail whip with Earth Garon. Now she's got an AI to help her pilot it. I get this is her first time on her own doing it, but I thought that was a little weird that she kind of just stood on the sidelines and let Ultraman deal with it. So at that point, he summons his Tilsonite sword and starts fighting Mokyujin again. Mokyujin's hitting the Tilsonite sword with his head blade. It's not having any effect, so Ultraman charges up the Tilsonite sword and just finishes off Mokyujin with a blast from it. And the episode kind of ends. The construction workers are just refilling the big hole Mokyujin came out of. And Yasunobu is upset that Emmy was the first to pilot Earth Garon on her own with the AI. And she goes, don't worry, Earthy will be happy to see you again soon. He's like, who told you about that? and he's like, don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, really, really great episode, despite its somewhat shortcomings with the whole Emmy storyline. But I'm sure we're going to get a little bit more on that later on in the series. At least I hope, because the series is done. So I don't know. But
yeah, and I don't know if the movie came out yet. I don't know what the deal is with the movie. I don't know if that's come out on YouTube yet, how that's going to work.
I'd hope after releasing this entire series out on English, we'd at least get an English dub of the movie.
Yeah. I'm really hoping we get a physical release of this. I don't know who's going to do it, if Mill Creek's going to do it or what.
Yeah, I don't know about the whole Mill Creek Ultraman thing. It sounds like they're not really licensing out anything super new. Maybe they're going to try to get a different company. I would imagine with them putting together a voice cast like this, that they're trying to get somebody to pick it up.
Yeah,
as a show. Like,
They had
Like
a great cast.
I'm fully not expecting the next series to be for free on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool. I mean, unheard of.
I mean, it would be great if it does, but I just can't see how they make money like that.
Yeah. I mean, they put their little advertisements in there in between, but it's all for their stuff, really.
Yeah, it's all stuff that the American audience can't buy.
Yeah.
You know, unless I go book a trip to Japan and go to the Superaya convention.
Yeah.
Where I import their toys. I can't import their Blu-ray release that they put out because they're not going to put the English dub on it for some reason. Even though they're the ones who made it and paid for it.
Yeah. I saw even when I was on that wiki for this, I think it got a release in India because I saw there was like a Hindi English release for it too.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm right on that, but that's what I was when I was reading up a little today. I was like, "Huh, that's interesting."
Yeah, it kind of is. But yeah, you know, let's go on to the next episode, episode 17.
Yeah,
really cool.
It gets right into it.
Yeah, so Scarred gets a call. They show up, and Tangula is just at the top of a skyscraper, and they're like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "He's just been there for 30 minutes." But the weird thing is that all the civilians are saying that he was almost like a ghost, and it kind of went up there like a bunch of smoke, and then just kind of like appeared.
Yeah.
Didn't damage anything, didn't do anything. It's just there.
Yeah.
And then we see this mysterious figure on another building. He whips out this giant sword, whips like a light beam at it, and Tangula just like disappears, like puffs into light, and then the figure is gone as well.
Yeah. And then it turns out that there's just been random kaiju sightings going on for weeks. And you know, it's kind of weird, like, the timeline of the show. I'm kind of curious, like, how long of a time frame the show's taking place. We've had several episodes where they've said things had been going on for months, things had been going on for weeks. So there's been all these random kaiju sightings, and this man appears at all of them, and all the kaiju sightings, they don't do any damage. They're just... We see pretty much everything that we've seen this season. We've seen Gatos appeared, we've seen Lavira, and a bunch of other ones, and they just were just harmless sightings, just flying through the air, swimming through the sea, and just not bothering anyone. And then they just quickly disappear and do no damage. So Amy determines that all these appearances of kaiju had been where they had been previously defeated. So they're like, all right, let's visit the spots of the kaiju that haven't been spotted yet. So Gento goes out, and he goes to where Lavira was, and he's standing there, and a hooded man approaches him. He's like, I think we're here for the same thing. And it almost appears like he summons Lavira out of this crystal that he's holding.
Yeah.
And then he reveals himself to be an alien called Zangil, and he quickly removes Lavira back into the crystal, as it seems. And then he and Gento, they just go to this little restaurant and are just having some food, talking, and Zangil reveals that he is an alien indeed. Gento could actually see his alien form. He's like, don't worry. He's like, I'm in my human form. He's like, but if you could see me in my alien form, that really tells of the power that's within you. So he kind of knows that Gento's got Blazar or something special within him. And he reveals to Gento that he used to be this reckless young swordsman going planet to planet, fighting people with his sword. And he finally met his match. And when he was defeated, he was tasked with the job to save 108 souls by the swordsman he had fought. And to do so, he had to go around and collecting all these kaiju souls. So it turns out all these kaiju that we've been seeing are really just the ghosts or souls.
It's the restless souls.
Yes, it's the restless souls that haven't
kaijus.
Yeah, that haven't passed on to the afterlife yet. So he's got to collect 108. He's on his 107th, but he reveals he has had trouble with the last one. He fought it already, but he says it's a vengeful spirit, and he needs help. And he talks with this very like Shakespearean proper talking, and it turns out he studies the culture of every planet that he visits, and he admires the samurais, which is why he talks that way. So next thing you know, there's some rumbling, and it turns out the final spirit has appeared, and this one isn't as docile as the rest. It's Niji Kagachi is back again. That's probably one of the most difficult fights Ultraman had all season. And Zangle goes outside. Gento gets the call about it. And Gento answers the phone jokingly because, we're talking this whole proper English thing. He goes, "It is I!"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Wait, it's me."
Yeah.
And Gento's like, "What are we going to do?" And Zangle's like, "Forgive me for this." And he just kind of grabs Gento by the back and he just throws him into the sky to, like, save some time to get him over to Niji Kagashi quickly.
Yeah.
And Gento's on the phone just screaming, and everyone at Scarlet's like, all right. And then he's like, "Deploy Earth Gara now!" And he's like in the middle of the sky. And Zangle lands there. He's like, "Sorry I had to do that." And they give us some really great action shots of Niji Kagachi again. I mean, these are probably even better shots than we saw in the 2-episode arc. There's some really awesome shots of just destruction from this kaiju.
Yeah,
and probably one of my favorite kaiju of the series so far.
Yeah, it's one of the best designed ones. I know they've had a lot of originals in this series, but I feel like it's one of the best designed ones. And on top of that, it was good to see this fight because it was Ultraman and Zangle teaming up to fight Niji Kagachi. So it was it was a really good fight. He's got the Tanzanite, was Tanzanite?
Yeah, Tilsonite.
Yes, sword, and Zangale's got like a sword arm when he's not in his human form, when he's in his alien form. So they're going back and forth, they're fighting, and they're actually able to, what appears is to defeat Niji Kagachi, but it turns out its spirit went on both sides and then went into Zangle. So it's kind of controlling Zangle now.
It's like possessing him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then him and Ultraman have an awesome fight.
Yeah, so Ultraman fights Zangle, possessed by Niji Kagachi. And it's their classic sword versus sword fight. And they get to a point where they are facing off one another. And they do the whole run at each other, dashing and pass each other. And Zangle falls, and then the spirit leaves his body, and at that point Zangle gets up, and the spirit's kind of like struggling midair, and the two of them just kind of slash it and defeat it that time for good. And what else was pretty cool during this fight, when they first started fighting, Ultraman's Tilsonite sword was not doing the job.
Yes, I forgot to mention this.
like kind of like lights up his sword and just smacks the Tilsonite sword and like gives it like a charge, and Ultraman's like, "Damn, this is good stuff," and it gives him a little edge.
I forgot to mention, so while Niji Kagachi had a physical body, it was still an ethereal being, so it couldn't be harmed by earthly weapons. It had to be a spiritual weapon. So I think he kind of gave him like some spirit energy in that sword.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that.
No, that's cool.
Pretty cool detail.
But yeah, so
but they even thought to do that.
Yeah. So after all this goes down, Zangle absorbs the Niji Kagachi spirit, the 108th spirit, into his crystal. It's just like a green geode looking thing. They're back at the restaurant talking, and Gento's like, "What are you gonna do now?" And Zangle's like, "Well, all the souls are collected, and now my soul will rest." And I mean, we saw in the flashback that Zangle was defeated by the swordsman, so technically he was also a wandering spirit. He passes the stone over to Gento. I'm not sure if that's going to have any further significance later in the series. And Gento's kind of just there, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to take all the food for myself," because Zangle had ordered food himself also. Yeah. But I guess he couldn't wait for his meal to finish to pass on.
Yeah, because he's like, what about your coffee? And Zangle just goes, I guess I will die with one regret. And then he passes on.
Yeah,
He didn't get to finish his coffee.
I didn't get to have my final coffee.
Nice little joke.
That was a really cool episode. It was very straightforward, not a lot of craziness going on, but it was like right into the action. The Zangief design was really cool. The whole origin story, the samurai thing, the swordsman thing.
I feel like when Ultraman, this series at least, when they bring on characters, it's not just the typical like, oh, it's an alien, they're bad. Even with the Garamon episode, there's all like a little something extra to the story. It's it's
even those aliens in the Garamon episode weren't necessarily bad. They were initially going to be bad, but then they kind of had a change of spirit when they fell in love with Earth.
Yeah, so it's kind of like one of those things where it's like the storytelling in this series is kind of like a step above.
Yeah.
It's not your paint by numbers like, oh, there's an alien, I'm going to defeat it story. Yeah. Oh, there's a monster, I'm going to defeat it. Like there's lore behind everything. There's reasoning, there's side characters with their own motivation, not just I'm an alien so I'm evil and I'm going to destroy the earth. Like there's extra stuff going on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I really appreciate the series and everything it's kind of done so far. I feel like it's definitely, because I was watching Decker, and Decker was cool and a lot of fun, but I feel like this is more elevated story than that.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with it, and we're pretty far into the series. We don't have much more left of it to cover.
8 episodes?
I mean, 8 more episodes. Yeah. Maybe we'll try to get like 3 or something in one of our next recordings and just kind of get through the rest of it so we could deliver the rest of the series to you guys.
Yeah. But I guess it is a main event time.
Yeah, I mean, and we're gonna crack open another one.
Yeah. I'm gonna just see if we can get this on camera here. Just
yeah.
It is Notzilla for our main event, and if you can, it might be a good one to. This is a good movie to definitely have a cold one with. It's a really funny movie.
Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was like extremely impressed and surprised with like how good this was. Like, it had no right, but it did. It did. It was like so good. Like, I was like, oh, it's a kaiju parody. Like, is it gonna be cheesy? Yeah. It's a little cheesy, but it also
they lean into it though.
They lean into it. They poke fun at it. Like, that's the whole point of it. And it was such a fun watch, honestly. I thought it was hysterical. The reoccurring gags that they have, they just really they hit it out of the park. This was written and directed by Mitch Teamley. It takes place in Cincinnati, Ohio for most of the movie. And the cast is just hysterical too. It's Shirley You Jest, who was played by, where did I put the cast here?
Yeah, I don't see it in the notes.
I thought I put it there. I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's all good.
But
like everyone's name is like a pun or a joke or something like that. Like you have Richard Blowhart or Dick Blowhard. Yeah. You know, like...
Yeah. It's a really fun movie. We had a great time with this, and we are also reviewing the comic after we do the movie. We're doing a little different this time because we figure we'll cover all the plot points while we're covering the movie, and then we can get into a quick little coverage on the comic. But what did you I love the movie. When I saw this, I was like, you gotta watch it. I'm like, you're gonna have a good time with this one. Did you watch it with Carrie?
So I ended up watching this movie with my wife, and I think she liked it. She's definitely laughed at a couple of things. It was pretty good. the movie just starts off with funny gags. You have your classic 50s couple making out on like the cliff in like the 50s car.
Yes.
But like the man has a fake mustache, and whenever they kiss, it swaps over from one to the other.
Yes.
A pretty funny gag over there.
Yeah, and then after that, it cuts to Notzilla. We don't see the monster. It's the Mama Notzilla walking by. They're like, "Oh no, it's a kaiju, a giant monster!" And the car falls off the cliff while they're kissing, and it lands, and now the mustache is on the girl, and they start kissing again, and the guy's like, "Groovy, my car landed perfectly fine." And that's when it cuts to one of our main characters, Professor Ichiro Honda, clearly a play on Ishiro Honda, the famous Godzilla director.
Yeah. So he's like...
He's a paleontologist.
Yeah, he's a paleontologist. And they're like, "Oh, so we're going to defeat Notzilla." And he's like, "Wait, no. He's like, it's a peaceful kaiju. It's like, it drink fermented berries, and that's why it grew this large. It's not it's not a violent creature." And they're like, no, we're going to defeat it. So he's like traumatized, like war, like PTSD, and
they're like, "We must kill our proctologist." He's like, "I'm a paleontologist, a proctologist, a doctor who looks at butt." He's like, "That doesn't matter." So they're like, "We're gonna kill him, Girdly Man, out of the way." So they kill Mama Notzilla. He picks up an egg, and he's like, "We're gonna go to America. I'm gonna go to Ohio." And he's got this whole book, how to learn American English and how to be an American. He flies to Ohio.
The book is How to Learn English and Save the World or something.
Oh, yes. Be an American hero or something like that.
Which is, again, pretty funny. So he's flying. He has to go to the bathroom.
The classic airplane hijinks.
So as he's in there, he sees his dad in the mirror for some reason. Now, again, this is like the next day.
Yeah.
And he's getting like flashbacks to like his disapproving father. And like while he's getting scolded by his father, accidentally flushes the egg down the toilet.
And it's a big egg. It's like the size of like...
But it's that airplane toilet,
Yeah,
like
it's that airplane toilet.
It's got that super suction.
Yeah. So it gets pulled out of the airplane and shot into the Cincinnati River. And then we cut to our next main character, Dr. Shirley Ugest, and of course Dr. Blowheart. She's in the elevator talking about the upcoming experiment and test run they have going that day, and he's there shaving and fantasizing that she's coming on to him, and he's like, "Please, this is inappropriate behavior for work." And she's like, "What? I was just going over these nuclear reactor charts." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever. Just don't let it happen again."
And it's like they say it's like a 2-hour elevator ride down to like the lab, and then when they get out of the elevator, he's still shaving.
Yeah.
He has a plug-in razor that's not plugged into anything.
That is a running gag though too for this.
Yeah, everybody shaves in the because you have all that time.
Yeah. So they get down to Snuggy's headquarters, the super secret reactor control room. Snuggy stands for Secret Nuclear Underground Government Installation, SNUGI. And we have all the doctors there. We get introduced to the team. There's Dr. Block, Bjorn Block, Jacques Boutte, Dr. Boutte, Mort Shortman, Hugh Mungus. And they're there preparing for this test. They were going to do this whole reactor thing. They've had 66 reactor meltdowns so far. Well, reactor 65, and this is going to be the 66th test. And we see all these nuclear reactor chutes underground, And they're like, all right, let's give it a shot and let's put on some safety devices. And they just put on sunglasses.
Yeah.
And they do the science, and the reactors melt down and they fail again.
But he's like, this is the biggest meltdown yet, though.
Yes. That is the biggest boom yet. Way to go, guys. We did a good job. Like, they're not supposed to be causing meltdowns here.
So clearly he's absolutely incompetent.
Yeah.
They end up having to go up to the top floor, and they're going to, like, they're doing nuclear cleanup. And while they're by the Cincinnati River, they see the egg.
Yes.
So she's like, this could be a dinosaur egg, and
it could be reptilian. This is one of the funniest lines. It could be reptilian. He goes, maybe it could be Democrat.
So they go to the chili shop, and they're talking about the egg, and in the background there's Ichiro Honda, and he's getting his chili from the waitress, who's also a reporter.
Pearl Stringer.
Yes.
She's a beat undercover reporter, and she gets a scoop on everything.
Yeah, she literally knows everything.
Yeah. Which her gag is pretty funny. We'll see a lot of her throughout this movie. So they're at the table eating their food, ordering, and Ichiro's at the counter kind of just eating there, and they're talking about the egg. And Pearl comes along. She's like, "Hey, you should talk to this Dr. Honda. He's a paleontologist." And of course, Dr. Blowhard is an idiot. Throughout this movie, we learn, even though he leads the team, he goes, "Oh," he's like, "How come sometimes I'm backed up for days, and other times I erupt like Mount Rushmore,"
which isn't even a volcano.
It's not a volcano, but that's how stupid he is, and the whole gag of him being a complete incompetent idiot throughout the movie is just great. Yes. He's just like this like overly chauvinistic dick, which is partly why he's got his name Richard Blowhard, and Shirley is like, that's a proctologist. He's a paleontologist. So she pulls out the egg. He's like, "Oh my god, it's my Notzilla." He goes, "Oh, I mean a Notzilla," and so of course the proctologist thing still goes on. He goes, "It's a Notzillosaurus," and they're usually the size of a man in a rubber suit. But if exposed to alcohol, it grow very big.
Yes,
and that's when they're like, all right, well, we got to get out of here. So Shirley goes home, Honda goes wherever, and for some reason, Blowhard takes the egg back with him to the Snuggie headquarters, and he's just in his office, hanging out, cracking beers for the night, and Shirley and Honda, Ichiro, they go for a walk down by the river where she had found the egg, and Pearl's kind of there, just in the bushes, hiding, watching them as they talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's during this scene you can kind of see the two of them are hitting it off, and she's got to think for him, he's got to think for her. They're talking science. She's finally talking to a fellow scientist for once, and not Dr. Blowhart.
Yeah, somebody who actually respects her work and values her opinion and everything. Cut to Dr. Blowhart, and he is decided he's going to start pouring beers on the egg because that's the state where he is. Yeah.
And next thing you know, the egg hatches, Notzilla pops out, and he starts giving Notzilla some beers. And cut to the next morning, Shirley is there, and she sees Notzilla, and they get paged down for the next experiment, but there's just a case of beers left in the office. And while they're walking down to meet the fellow scientists, the scientists that are there waiting for them are Doctors Mothra, Rodan, and Dr. Gorgo from Great Britain. Which I thought was great nods to some other kaiju. And even in, I forgot to mention Dr. Blowhart's, he's got Attack of the 50-foot female college student with a diploma or something? The 60-foot woman with a college degree.
I must have missed that one.
Yes, there's a poster in the background, and he even brings it up again. He brings it up himself. He's like, "Oh, this is just like the attack of a 60-foot woman with a college degree." So they're in the office, and then next thing you know, there's some rumbling. It's not from a meltdown. They didn't even run their tests yet. They're like, "Where'd it come from my office?" They go to their office, and they find a big hole in the wall, and Notzilla has ran out onto a field. And he goes, "I have some questions. First is, what's that hole in the wall? And second, aren't we 500 stories underground? Why is there a field out there?"
Yeah, because I was thinking the same thing. Because I was like, "Is this like a continuity error?" I'm like watching this. I'm like, "This doesn't make any sense." And then they bring it up.
And like the hole in the wall is like almost like, like when the coyote falls through like a brick,
Wile E. Coyote,
or like runs through a wall. It's just kind of like
perfect outline of Notzilla.
Yeah. So then they're like, "Oh boy, we better go out. How much beer has he had? He's already way bigger than he should be at this age." And they sit out. They're back at the chili restaurant, and they're like, "We gave him beer." He's like, "I gave him beer," and he's like, "This is only the beginning," and that becomes one of his reoccurring lines: "Is this is only the beginning?"
Yeah.
Dr. Blowheart. So they're at the restaurant talking about what they could do about Notzilla, when Pearl finds another link to help them out in the restaurant. This chili restaurant is just like the mecca of knowledge here for Pearl. So she pulls over this farmer-looking guy that is the busboy, apparently. And he's like, "My grandpa said something came to his house and stole all his beers." So they're like, "All right, that sounds like a lead. Let's go there." So they head over to the grandfather's house, and it's like this is supposed to take place in like 1968, and the house looks like a modern day like California home. It does not look like a 1960s home to me that they arrive at, but they get there. There's a giant footprint. I believe it was filled with Notzilla pee.
Yes.
Because that's what Ichiro needed to collect. And they open the garage, and it's just filled with like empty beer cans and cases. And it's like they're like, "How much beer does he have?" And they're like, "Oh, he keeps like about 80 cases because he likes to have them around in case some girls come over." This guy's grandfather. And so they find the footprint there, and Dr. Blowheart bends over, picks it up, and he tastes it. He's like, "It tastes like beer, only a little salty." And Dr. Honda and Shirley are cracking up because they just know he just drank pee. And Ichiro Honda collects the sample. He's like, "All right, I'll be able to synthesize a cure to shrink him back down." But Dr. Blowheart still wants to be the hero of this story. So they're like, "We gotta track down Notzilla." So they get on like this snuggy special boat, and the whole farmer busboy's pissed. He's like, "I want to get revenge for my grandfather. He destroyed his beer and killed him." He thinks the grandfather's dead. The busboy thing is pretty hysterical. What happens with him? So they head out on the boat. They bring this special radar, and for some reason, Pearl is still following them everywhere, and she hides inside this radar. And she's in the radar with a little notepad like this, and she's just like,
He's getting everything.
She's just getting everything. Everywhere you go, that's her. So they're on the boat. They're on the Cincinnati River. Blowheart thinks they're out on the ocean. But finally Notzilla appears and is just docile, and the busboy's pissed at Notzilla, but then all of a sudden his grandfather just appears on the boat and is like, "Chill out, bro." And him and Notzilla like become like BFFs, and the busboy's just like surfing Notzilla's back and just chilling with him.
Yeah. One of the other gags that's gonna pop up is they try to call in the army on Notzilla, and he calls
first he calls the Pentagon, but they're dealing with the Cuban Missile Crisis, so they forward him to the Southwest East Ohio Pentagon.
And they get this like incompetent like general.
General Bogus. He's a Frigidaire general. He's in charge, not a brigadier general, a Frigidaire general. He's in charge of all the refrigeration operations for the army.
Yes.
He's a 2.5 star general, but he keeps claiming to be a 4-star.
Yes. And whenever he says 4-star, on the bottom in subtitles it says 2.5 star.
Yes, that's also one of the running gags throughout this movie. Is there's constantly subtitles and like that typing across the screen like a typewriter to tell you about the person, and it's correcting them, and yeah.
So
the subtitles itself of the movie are also just like a complete comedy gold also.
Yes. So instead of actually like doing anything about this, he decides it's going to be great for his nephew to make a movie about it.
And then about him being the hero of the movie.
Yeah, so just throughout the entire movie, you just have this film crew with real soldiers being put behind it. And they're just doing all these stupid things to just try to film a movie.
But they also they don't use real soldiers. There is soldiers, but they also have
actors,
mostly fake soldiers too, which are like the Green Army men.
Yes,
that's what they put out there on the field to confront Notzilla.
But they have real soldiers, and they're giving them like orders, like, "Oh, go do this, go do that."
They're like, they're getting ordered, and then there's one of the scenes where like, "Oh, we got to make it look like we have an army marching." So you see like they're like walking by the camera, and then they like bend down, and they in front of the camera they walk back, and the same like 5 guys walk by the camera again.
It's probably one of the better running gags that they have going on with it.
I mean, there's just so many gags in this thing. It's great.
And we end up getting like a couple of really good shots of the Notzilla costume.
Yeah,
and it's actually a really good suit.
Yeah.
They have like this zipper clearly visible.
Yeah, like right under the neck.
Like they make like the actual like pull for it like comically large.
Yes.
And then the spine, I don't know if it's supposed to look like.
It looks like
Sour Patch Kids or like those like dolls you'd cut into paper.
It looks like a combination of paper dolls and Sour Patch Kids. The spines on Notzilla.
Yes, it was like a really good suit though. Like,
it is. It's a nice looking design. Although it's got the gags, it's a good looking design.
Yeah, solid suit.
So Notzilla appears and confronts the military. The rockets literally just bounce off Notzilla. Most of the military is toys, and it's just knocking the toys around like they're cars, like they're toys, and most of them are. And then he's flicking the toy soldiers over with his claw. And then the jets come, and they're on the street, and Notzilla just grabs them and cuts them with his fingers. And they're like, "We got him!" And they're like, "Great, let's go get this developed." And then they leave. They're like, in the army guys, they're like, "He got us." And all they care about is getting this film developed. And Dr. Blowhart shows up on the scene a few minutes late, and he's like, "Where the hell are they? What's going on here?" He's like, "What kind of general is this?" He's like, "I showed up 10 minutes late, and there was nothing but toys there." And he's like, "We had a little trouble with your monster. He broke through our Dookie defense, and now he's headed for Cincinnati." So he's like, "Do you have a special weapon?" He's like, "Yeah, I have a super secret atomic weapon called the super secret Uber Fission Mega Blaster, but we need to get it bigger." He's like, "It looks really small, but he's like, if you bend down and look closer, it'll look a little big." I think that's a dick joke, right?
I think so. So during all this stuff and all this drunken debauchery, Notzilla's going around. He's taking like the beer can that would be like on top of like a fake building, like a fake beer can on like a beer distributor. He'll take it off and he'll drink all the beer out of it. And,
yeah, it's like a beer water tower.
Yeah, like there's a lot of running gags like that. And Ichiro Honda he goes to one of the breweries that gets hit, and he's like, I want to create a cure and all this stuff. And one of the brewmasters is like, one day I dreamed of moving to America and learning English and saving the country. And he's like, I even bought this book. And it's the same book that Ichiro Honda has. So they bond over that, and then they start trying to brew the cure for Notzilla to start shrinking.
Yeah. And he also confronts Blowheart a little before this as well, back at the Snuggie base, where Blowheart's like, listen, I'm going to kill him. He's like, I don't care. And I'm going to use this fission, and it's going to cause all this nuclear radiation in Cincinnati, and it's going to be uninhabitable for like 50 years, but he's like, you know what, I'm going to be the hero though.
Yes.
And Ichiro is like, I wish I took karate so I could fight this guy. He's like, but I did study and master in haiku. So they have like a haiku battle. And Ichiro's actually like hitting him with real things, and like Blowheart's trying to just say like nonsense. Like he goes, I think one of the things he tries to use is a haiku. He goes, listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of, and then he gets like knocked off, and then he goes, here I sit broken hearted, try to, and then he gets hit with another haiku as Ichiro finishes him off. And then that's when he sits back off to the brewery, and we get a little funny scene of a train, the classic Godzilla stopping the train, but this time it's a toy model train with sticker people on the side, like the silhouettes of people, and he's peeling off the stickers from the train and dropping them, but then it just shows these random people falling from the sky. People are loving it though. They're like, oh, this is so cool. And it's a pretty funny scene. And then Ichiro goes and sees Shirley at her apartment. They're watching some old samurai movie, and she just has this vision, this dream of herself and Ichiro in the city, and Blowheart's just destroying it. And that's when she realized Blowheart's the villain. We need to stop him. So then Ichiro heads out to the brewery. She gives him this special fission brew to help fission. I forget what it was, like a fission recipe that'll help him with the brew as well to help reverse it. So that's when her and the brewmaster get to work, while the Snuggie team is off to building a larger scale gun. Shirley gets a call from Pearl Stringer, our reporter, and she informs him that Dr. Blowheart's not actually Blowheart, but a child actor that goes by the name, what was his name? I think it was like Don Draper. Yeah, Don Draper was his name. And he played a child prodigy on the show. I forgot what the character was, though.
Yeah, it was like a fake. It was basically like a Doogie Howser.
Yeah, it was like a Doogie Howser thing.
But like the funny part is I think like he ended up being the valet, because he's a failed child actor. Ended up being like the valet for real Blowheart.
Yes, and he just stole his identity.
Yes.
So we've just had a child actor running a nuclear facility and blowing things up just for fun. So they're like, he's got to be stopped. So Notzilla starts his rampage on the city, even though it's not really a rampage. He's kind of just walking about, drinking beers, and farting and burping out fire. Not on purpose.
Just the beers.
Just the beers. Yeah. And there's a whole little scene where like, oh, look at this lady. She's like, they're like, oh, I've seen this before. Where it's just a couple like inside their apartment window watching the whole attack. And they're like, oh, she's gonna just stop her car and get out for no reason now. And they're like, watch, she's gonna trip next for no reason. And she trips. She's like, why does this happen? And then he's like,
pick her up now.
He's like, yeah, now he's gonna pick her up. And they're like, oh wait, no, that's not her. That's just a doll. And then it zooms in and it literally is just like a doll. And they're like, no, wait, no, that's her. And she's like, oh, this must be what Fay Ray felt like with King Kong. And she's like, that's not good, Notzilla, put me down. And she's like, get rid of that beer. So she throws the beer, and he burps again. There's an explosion, and then there's just a guy who's barbecuing. in the middle of the street after the explosion. And then we cut to two other guys that are smoking cigarettes, and one of the guys like, he's like, I need a light, and then he burps and lights the cigarette, and then he farts, and the fire comes out of his butt. He's like, and then they get like charred faced, and they're like, it's not so much the fire that I minded. And the other guys, he's like, yeah, it's where it came from. They're like, yeah. And Shirley runs back to Snuggie, and is like, we can't let this thing go off. She's like, I found a new formula for warm fusion that could stop and reverse the work. And she's like, I put everybody's names in it. And then we get a little montage of Ichiro and the brewmaster still working on the beer, and they finally finish it, and they hop it into the car, and then we cut to Blowheart for the big final showdown. He's got his gun, and he's ready to set it off, and just when he goes to set it off, it fails, and Shirley shows up, and he's like, Shirley Girly. That's his other running gig. He keeps calling her Shirley Girly, and she's like, It's Dr. Shirley. And she's like, I'm not just a piece of meat. And another gag through this movie is he kept calling Dr. Block Swedish, and he gets his little punches. He's like, I'm not Swedish, I'm black. He's like, I never approved you being black.
God.
And they're like, that's why we don't like you. And then that's when Shirley shows up and kicks him. And we got General Bogus still there trying to film his movie while this is all going on. Notzilla appears with a tree, a bouquet of flowers for her. She puts it down. Ichiro shows up with his big beer can in the pickup truck with the brewmaster to get him back to normal size. Notzilla picks up the beer, drinks it, and shrinks back down to normal. But Dr. Butte, as we've seen throughout the movie, she's kind of had a little crush on him. Donnie, as she calls him by his child role name.
Yeah,
and,
at first that's supposed to be like the big reveal to like get her to like change sides.
Yeah.
And then they tell her, and she's like, I loved that show.
Yeah. And the thing is, she had a fake mustache through the whole movie too. Like, it was a woman, but like they were pretending like she was a man. And in this scene, she rips off the mustache and reveals that she's in love with him, and that people do stupid things for love. And she had left one rod still in the machine that should be enough to shrink him. And they're like, we're still going to destroy Notzilla, even if it causes 50 years of radiation. He's like, it's still for our good. And everyone blocks Notzilla with this whole, I'm Notzilla, I'm Notzilla.
Yeah.
And then Ichiro launches the beer can with the truck into the air, and it reflects the blast back at Blowheart and Butte. And they're all in shock. The day is saved. And then we cut to the end, where we see Blowheart and Butte in a pink-looking car that looks like a Barbie car. And it turns out that it is, because they've been shrunk down with the ray to miniature-sized people. And Blowheart is now Nodzilla's toy pet thing with Butte. And Notzilla is like Shirley and Ichiro's child. And he's like, I never said there was one egg. And then it ends with the big reveal that there's 3 eggs.
Yeah, so...
But I forgot to mention, prior to all that aftermath, another general appears, General Specific.
Yes.
And she says that she wants Honda to become the new Giant Monster Protection Program leader. And she goes, protection, and Ichiro's protection from what? And she goes, sequels. And Shirley gets promoted and takes over Blowheart's position.
Yes.
But it ends with, this is the end, or is this only the beginning? And that's one of the lines that Blowheart said throughout the movie. He kept saying, this is only the beginning. And they're like, how many times is he going to say that?
I thought it was a pretty funny movie. We left out a lot. Like we mentioned a lot of the gags, but we left out so much. You guys have to go see this movie.
Yes.
Again, it's available digital, free with ads in a lot of places, and also Blu-ray's not very expensive at all. It's decent Blu-ray release. It's a very basic one, so I didn't do a review for it. So this is gonna be the review now. Good release. It comes with just the movie and the trailer on it, and the disc, nice printed with the picture on it. It is a burned disc. It's not a pressed disc. Some people might mind that, but other people, they think that a burned disc might actually hold up better to disc rot. There's a lot of conversation about physical media and what's going to last the longest. I say just get it if you like it, So, that's the Blu-ray review. And, go check out the movie. It's a good time. And now we're going to cover the comic book.
Yeah, the Notzilla comic book. It's a pretty much exact adaptation of the movie. There is a little more and also a little less in here. When I say a little more, we get a little bit of Notzilla's inner monologue, which isn't a lot, but we kind of get what's going through Notzilla's head in the comic book. This was written by Mitch Teamley, same writer of the movie and director. He's the creator. It's got this great introduction here. He tells the story of how Notzilla has been an idea in his head since he was 11. He just fell in love with monsters, and he said he was pregnant with this idea at the age of 11.
It's a really good read. That letter.
Yeah, it really was. And what I thought was really interesting was that originally it was going to be made by another company, and they ended up picking up Scary Movie sequels. So this could have been a much larger release, honestly, which I find pretty interesting. But that's a really cool section, and you had mentioned earlier before when we were talking, this would have been really cool to see, and it's a little special feature, just even a little commentary in the movie on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
But it's a cool introduction and story. This is basically
I'd say it's almost a graphic novel. It's pretty big.
I think it's about 63 pages. I forgot the run on this.
I think it is 63.
I think it's 63 pages. It's a graphic novel, basically. It's got the spine. There was a hardcover version, but I just really love the tribute to the Marvel Godzilla cover, so I had to go with this one. The hardcover was done by Hiroshi Kanatani. Love his work. I believe this cover was done by Ben Dunn. He did help produce this comic book. Ben is the one of the lead creators of Antarctic Press. He's done things such as Warrior Nun and a lot of Antarctic Press stuff. Any project, he's behind it there at Antarctic Press. So this is basically an Antarctic Press release, even though it just says Indie Comics on the back, and there's not really, I don't think there's any Antarctic Press mention anywhere in here. There was, after this did release, I got this through the Kickstarter, and we got the digital version too as well through the Kickstarter. The art inside is by Zumart Putra. Really good looking art. It pretty much is the movie play by play. There is some stuff from the movie left out, but like I said, there's some things from the movie that were not in there as well. So it's not word for word the movie, but it's very, very, very close. Really good comic. Highly recommend picking it up if you could find it. I believe Antarctic Press did, after the Kickstarter, they did print a mass release. You could find it on some websites. Do a little searching. I'll try to link it down below in the comics for you to pick it up. There are some retailers carrying it. I want to say Third Eye might have it. A couple of big name retailers for comics online have this book. Highly recommend picking it up. Fred Perry also did some covers for it, and Andre Evans as well. And I mentioned Hiroshi Kanatani. Luke Minhadi did the storyboard for it, so I guess he laid out the comic kind of for Seymour to do the art. But really well done story. I enjoyed the comic just as much as I enjoyed the movie. It's a fun read. I can honestly, after reading the comic, I was like, oh, this would be if they did like a cartoon like adaptation of it, or even like a sequel. If they did a cartoon sequel, would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
maybe they could do a sequel with the comic.
That's what I was thinking.
If Mitch doesn't want to do a movie, he could do a comic. Maybe that would be cool.
No, I think that's a good avenue for the obviously making movies is expensive.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie though.
I thought they did a great job. I think it was better than it had any right to be.
Yeah, and when I was reading up on it, it did receive several awards. It snagged up 5 Indie Awards from several film festivals through 2020. Best in Show, Best in Comedy, Best Humor, Best Sound, Best Feature, and 2 Best Actress awards for Tiffany Ahern Davis. That's who played Shirley You Jest. And she's also known as Tiffany Winkfield. So they picked up some awards for this movie. It was very well received. And when it was screened at G-Fest, I believe it was 2019, it ended with a standing ovation. The crowd loved it there. So it's definitely not to be slept on, this movie. Well, like when I first heard of it way back when I picked it up, I was like, this sounds like a silly movie. It is a silly movie, but it's a really fun movie.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
In the comic books, a good read too. I think you get not to knock on the acting at all, but like I feel like the illustrations, especially for Blowhard, are so over exaggerated in the comic. It comes across like that's like one of like the differences, like kind of like that toony look to it kind of adds to, and even some of the visual gags. So it is worth checking out both if you can.
Absolutely. I would absolutely check out both. Like I said, if I can, I will link down below places to buy the comic. I would pick it up as soon as you can, because I don't think it's going to be around too long. We got the Kickstarter, and it got a quick run through Antarctic Press. So pick that up, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we did. Definitely. And I guess that about wraps the show. I think that's about it. We will probably be back with, like I mentioned earlier, we do have a territory chat with Blake on the horizon. We have a couple things coming down the pipe. Of course, Godzilla Kong New Empire is coming out. I guess we got to see how the schedule falls, and we'll see what is next. We have a bunch of things that we would love to cover on the show right now, so and only so much time, so we'll see how everybody's schedule's working out, what we could do for our next show. I'm not sure what the next movie will be, but if it's a territory show, it'll be fun. If it's another movie, we'll let you know what we're watching on Twitter.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.